Welcome to my CSS Family STEAM Night talk on design and development at Home Edition. My name is Thom. I'm a professional engineer and managing director of design and development at a New York company called the LeFrak organization, which is a real estate developer. I work with designers to design plans for new and renovated buildings and places, and with ownership groups to develop those plans into something that can legally and financially be built, and with construction teams to help build those projects and bring them into reality. And by designers, I'm talking about architects and engineers who are the ones holding the pencil, if you think of it that way, as the person drawing up the plans. And with the owners, those are the governments or the schools or the companies or the people who have the land and the budget on which the project is going to be built, and they're going to fund it. And the construction teams are then the different trades of electricians and plumbers and contractors who are building the structure or the place. So my career is started in elementary, middle, and high school in Canada, where I was born. And I studied civil engineering at Princeton University in the United States. And I have a Master of Science degree in structural engineering from Imperial College London in the UK. I'm licensed as a professional engineer, or PE. And I work as a structural engineer in Canada, designing buildings. And then I moved to New York ever since the year 2000 to work on many different kinds of projects: apartments, hotels, offices, schools, stores, restaurants, parks, roadways, and so on. Some of the places that I've done most of my work are Lower Manhattan in Battery Park City. This large complex on the right is one of my company's buildings. In Queens, I spent 10 years renovating this 5,000 apartment complex called LeFrak City. In Jersey City, this is a project called Newport. It's almost everything you see on this page. It's been going on for about 30 years. And our newest project is in North Miami. And all this area that you see here will be developed over the next 10 years into a series of buildings. One of the examples I like to use in talks like this is playgrounds, because it's a discrete aspect of something that we do that gives you many different design problems to think about and solve, and you have to balance different factors. And it's a really good example of working with a team of people to create a fun place. And it shows how good design can make for a better experience. This is a project that we did in 2012 in Jersey City called Newport Green Playground. So when you're designing a playground, you have to think about the program and what activities you're going to put in your playground. And that can be any number of things: some sliding, swimming, sitting, spinning, playing sports, running, even things like eating or playing in the sand or the water. All of that has an impact on what you're going to be designing. You also have to think about the users who are doing those activities. How old is the person? How are they accessing the playground? And what if they're not a child? What if they're an adult? So that's why you see different kinds of swings, for example, for babies and toddlers versus older kids, or why you might see tall play equipment that's for ages 5 to 12 and low play equipment that's for under 5. Sometimes modern playgrounds have ramps or other ways to make them accessible to all users. For example, here's a bench where you can see there's room for a wheelchair to pull up to the bench, just as there is for someone sitting on the plastic bench on this side. And then for the adults, they like to sit when they're at the playground and watch their kids. And so you have to have a lot of good benches if you're doing a good playground, or somewhere like a seat wall for the adults to sit. And when you're thinking about playgrounds, safety is one of the most important design factors. You have to think about your play surface, and is that going to be something that's durable and safe? So while you might see sand or wood chips or even pavement on a playground, most modern playgrounds are done with rubber because that's the most safe and most durable material. Here's a fun example from one of my company's old projects in the 1960s. All kinds of things going on in this image with pinched fingers and hard pavement and lots of metal and sharp objects. Here's the same project in the year 2010. Some of the elements were still there, very outdated with the very thin rubber and sharp corners and hard pavement. And that's why in a modern playground, instead of seeing rusty metal for climbing structures, you often see things like soft ropes. Here's a fun example of a very old playground. Clearly, everything here is very tall. This is actually a New York City playground from the 1930s. Looks like fun, but there's a little bit too much going on here with heights and sharp edges and hard surfaces. This is a local example in Inwood, where we live, of a slide that was recalled about 10 years ago, shortly after the playground opened. That's because as the children were climbing up the ladder, they would have to balance for a moment to go down the slide, and that turned out to be fairly unsafe. And so nationwide, the company that made these slides had to recall them, and they replaced them with a slide that was more conventional in design, but also had this hood at the top that gave the kids a chance to grab a handlebar and stabilize themselves before they went down the slide. Safety may also have to do with the weather and the hot sun, and that's why a good playground will have shade structures in the sand. This is an example of a metal dome in Union Square you may have visited that was originally built without any shade, and then it became so hot they had to go and add this fabric shade structure for the summer months. When it comes to design, if you can enhance the user experience with an attractive and engaging design, that will make for an even better playground. And so here's just a fun example of many different kinds of playground designs that are found around North America and Europe. Some of these are in New York, like this one in Williamsburg, or in Brooklyn. And some of these other examples, I'll point out other ones that are in New York, but you can see lots of fun ideas here to help make for fun playgrounds. Here's a pirate ship at a playground that I did. There's a tugboat, lighthouses, bridges, Native American village, farm themes, fire truck themes, a highway theme, animal themes like this giant whale, castles. This playground is actually themed like an airport, which is pretty cool. It's in Colorado. And some of these themes are so great that they add a design factor that can really go above and beyond a memorable experience. So here's a playground in Europe that is made to look like Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels. Or here's some giant sprinklers. This is in Brooklyn, or in the East River, sorry. Here's a giant maze in Georgia. These are both near New York. This one on the left is in Hoboken, and this one on the right is in Lower Manhattan in Battery Park City. And here's the slides on Governor's Island. This is a slide down in Alabama. This is getting really quite tall. And this is in Miami, a dual racing slides. I'm not even sure where this one is. I think in Germany. But you can see things get pretty wild. And if you really want to have fun, you can even have some slides for adults. I snuck in this slide from university in Europe. This is a sculpture that is also a slide that makes it fun for the kids to play on. Here's a version of a playground that's all contained within a wall. Some playgrounds you'll see will have big mounds of artificial grass in them to make it fun to play on. This is at Governor's Island. There's a playground where the kids are allowed to use real tools and sort of build their own playground. This is in Brooklyn, really giant sort of tire swing. Here's some giant instruments. Zip lines. This one on the left is in Washington Heights. This is the rope ladder down by, not Union Square, down by Washington Square. Some of you may have played on this when you were younger. And then the maker of these lily pad designs has sold them all over the country. They're found in many places, shopping centers like Cross County Plaza in Yonkers, or the Museum of Science in many cities. Liberty Science Center has one of them. There's also big climbing nets. This was our playground in Jersey City. Here's some even bigger nets, and they again get pretty tall. You can also add fun things like carousels. This was a carousel that we added to our playground in Jersey City to give the kids something to do after they were playing on the equipment. And we also added an artificial beach there so that people could pretend they were at the beach. Even though there's no water you could swim in, we had sand and these steel umbrellas and chairs you could drag around, and people really seemed to enjoy that with their kids as well. So when you finished your design and you've thought about location and program and users and safety and aesthetics, then the design is transferred onto what we call blueprints, or plans or drawings. They used to be called blueprints because that was the machine that they used before photocopiers. It always made them blue. But here's what a modern drawing looks like. So this was the plan for the park we built in Jersey City. And the diagrams on these pages here show how a playground design actually looks to an engineer or architect when it's translated into the language that we speak as engineers and architects, which is all about using different graphics and lines and numbers and calculations to depict things like this page that shows plumbing and grade elevations, or this page that shows a bird's eye view of a layout of a playground. Here you see details with safety diagrams explaining how much space you need to have around the equipment to make sure that everything is safe. And then you can move into the construction, where you actually get to build the design. And so here you see that playground in Jersey City that we designed begin to take shape with the earth movers, making the grading for the dirt and beginning to construct all of the equipment on foundations that you can see in the ground here. And then coming back and putting down the concrete that will form the base layer before coming back and adding that rubber safety surface to the top and starting to add some of the other details, the equipment and the light poles and the stone trim. And again, the landscaping until everything is finished and it looks something like this with the safety surface and all the equipment finished and the landscaping is in place and the fences and the lighting, and then all the kids come out to play. And this is again one of my favorite examples of a project I've worked on as an engineer. So that's my quick 10-minute talk on design and development, and hope you enjoyed it. And any questions, we'll do it again next year. Thank you. Bye-bye.